Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov, and I'm so excited for this week's episode. Today's guest is a dear friend of mine. I've known her for such a long time. Call her my Canadian sister. We've had a lot of great memories together, and I'm really excited for you all to get to know her a little bit better. She's a fabulous dancer, an incredible choreographer, and an all around boss babe. Please welcome my guest today, the fabulous Caryl Cuizon.
Hello. Thank you
Hello.
for the introduction. I wanted to say we've been at so many places together. Whenever I see your face, it feels like home.
That's how I feel about you. So much, so much. I absolutely love you. We've definitely traveled a lot together. I think we've come to Toronto so many times that at one point it really felt like a second home.
Mm-hmm.
And you've always felt like home to all of us. So I'm really happy to have you on. Thank you so much for giving of your time.
Thank you. I'm so
How
glad to be here.
how is everything going out there in Toronto? How are you guys doing?
Well, I think it's starting to change. So things are starting to open up. Just like I guess in the States, your states are different, provinces are different.
Hmm.
Ontario was finally starting to open.
Nice.
I might have mentioned we just started teaching again in September. So we've been
Wow.
closed for like a year and then
Wow.
there's a period of time. We just started social dancing 2 weeks ago. So the first like indoor social dance. So there was outdoor social dancing in the summer.
Hmm.
And I think capacity limits are open. There's no capacity limits for like large events. So it's starting to feel like salsa's coming or dancing is coming back.
That's
So a
exciting.
little bit behind, I guess, other places, but that's where it is.
It is what it is. I can't wait for things to be normal so that I can come to Toronto again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cause, cause it's just I miss my Canada peoples like a lot. I feel like I've developed had so many friendships develop over the years. You guys
Mhm.
are just also awesome.
Well, thank you. But likewise, right? Like there's a reason that you feel like home to me and like probably all of the Toronto people who are used to seeing you year after year, right? Not just
Yeah,
here, but wherever we travel to, right? So
absolutely. All
yeah,
right, so let's get into your career. I want to let
yeah.
everybody get to know you. And by the way, for those of you that are watching live, remember we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. If you have any questions for Carol, myself, make sure you put them in the comments. We'll bring them on and we'll try to get to all of your questions. So, my first question for you, my dear,
Okay.
let's take it back to the beginning. Why don't you tell everybody how your dance life began? So, give us the background on Carol.
Okay, how this started. So I was I was at work, okay, in my first year at work, and maybe it might have been a co-op or something like this. I'm not really sure. Um, and one of my coworkers says, "Oh, you know what? Last night I went salsa dancing, and he had a really good time." And I say, "Oh, can I go with you?" So I invite myself to take the next class. So I mean, I've danced before other things, so it's not like dancing has never been part of my life. So the thought of it sounded pretty cool. So the next week we go to salsa and go to the class. And actually, my first teacher, I want to give her credit, is Jennifer O'Coin. So she was my very first teacher. Uh,
Seriously?
yeah.
Oh, I love Jen. She was on my first season.
I know. Yeah.
She
So I
was one of
wanted
my first cast.
to say that. I make sure I'd let people know, like, who's been on my path. She was the first person to introduce me to it. And so right away, I'm like, oh, this feels good. The music feels good. The vibe feels good. I'm going to continue. So
I
I keep
love
dancing.
that.
Yeah, right.
I
So
love that Jen was your first teacher, like, that you had a woman instructor first, because I don't hear that a lot on the show.
no, really? Okay. Well, so I'll have some things to say about Toronto, which is probably different than other places. So she was my teacher, and she took us on outings, and I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. And now I had seen salsa before, but
Okay.
I'm the one like sitting, like friends just like looking around. I can't do anything. But I got interested in it, and so we danced. Me and my coworker after work, we would go to class for 6 months. He leaves because he has to travel to another country to work, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? So I'm not gonna dance. Okay, so I don't dance. 6 months later, I'm like, you know what? I want to dance. I want to keep doing it. So I go back and I start seeing all the people who had come with their other friends,
Mhm.
and now they're all like me, just by themselves. Like they decided they still want to do it, and
Mhm.
that's where it started. And so like from that day, that return, I haven't stopped. Except for COVID, I have never stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you were a kid, you didn't do any type of dancing or anything as a child?
I didn't do like say classical dances. Like I did,
Okay.
so I'm Filipino, and I did like say folk dancing, like folk kind of
Okay.
dancing. I did hip hop. I did like not classical kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I was
Hey,
a cheerleader.
dancing is dancing.
Dancing is dancing. Yeah.
Dancing is dancing. It's all
Yeah.
good. So how old were you when you started those types of dances?
Those like those like folklore, probably like 4 or 5, like however old you are when your parents say you got to do it.
See, this is why I get sad that YouTube wasn't around longer because I feel like I
Yeah.
could have found videos like those.
Oh
And
yeah.
I would love to share that
Yeah.
stuff, but I don't think I feel like a lot of dancers don't post their childhood stuff online. Like, they're just like, "Look at me now as a pro," versus like,
Yeah.
"Look at me when I was 6," you
I
know?
know. I know. I feel like I'm gonna be cringing at like the earlier videos, but like you've said
Okay.
before, it's part of the journey, right?
That's right,
Part of
that's
the
right. It's
journey.
very important for our viewers to see that you didn't start out perfect.
Oh, far from it.
We all start somewhere, you know? It is a process, it's a journey, and I think that's, really especially today, I think that's so important for
Yeah,
people to see because there's such a I don't wanna use the word problem, but it is a bit of an issue with, people trying to be Insta pros or Insta dance celebrities,
yeah,
like and it's not the case. Like, all of my guests have put in the work.
yeah. And you know what? I think for anyone who has become a teacher along the path, the mistakes that we made help you be help your teaching, right?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
when somebody does this, I'm like, I did that too. I know what it feels like. You know that you can relate to the struggle, and it didn't
Absolutely.
look pretty. I remember for the first while when I went social dance, I actually didn't want to be noticed.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so everybody's like they're dressed and whatever. I'm like trying to like hide and like not be noticed while I'm like trying to learn how to social dance. Like I'm
Mhm.
trying to learn how to do this. And so then I remember there was a day I'm like, all right, I think I'm okay. I think I can like be seen now. But I remember there was that point where I just wanted to absorb, see how the scene is, try to elevate my skills, but I was very shy. And
What was it that made that change for you? What do you know what it was that made you go,
um,
"I wanna be seen"?
I think it was just more confidence, just
Okay.
the confidence of like, okay, like in class, I understand what's going on. When I'm social dancing, I don't feel as nervous as I did
Okay.
before. And so then there was a point where I'm like, okay, I'm okay to stand here and look like okay to dance. Like I'm ready to dance and I'm ready to let people see that I enjoy this. And then they'll ask me where I'm like in the corner, like hiding until it's time for I want to dance. And then I'm going to go ask someone or somebody asks me, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, okay, I like did you find, because you said you went out dancing first before you took classes?
No, I took
Oh,
classes
you took
first.
classes first.
I took
Okay,
classes first, yeah.
so because I've had some people say,
Mhm.
ignorance is bliss, like, when they first started social dancing because they didn't know any better, like, they were having so much fun and were so confident, and then they started learning and they were like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing," and then the confidence dwindles and then it comes back, like so I'm
Oh,
curious because you started with classes.
yeah. Well, okay. Maybe it's the way that I grew up. Like
Okay.
whatever I've competed in everything that I've done. And so
Of
I know
course
that
you have.
there's a training that you have to do before you go out there and do it. Right. But at some point you got to do it.
Absolutely.
That's kind of my process is like, okay, if I want to know how to do this, I have to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And when I really like something, I'm gonna try to go all the way.
Okay.
That's kind of how I grew up. So
So you got back into the dance scene, you had that 6-month break, you got into it. Tell me about how the process between when you were doing that and when I Freestyle came about.
oh, okay. Back then, I'm gonna call this the golden age of salsa in Toronto, or the
I
golden age
love
of.
it.
It was fantastic because all the best dancers were out every night. Like we had social dancing every single night. So
Mhm.
me, I'm the newbie, and my partner Angus, like we're both like the newest dancers of this group of people, and so we're getting to absorb this. Like we're taking classes, but we're also absorbing social dancing, which is a big part of who we are.
Mhm.
And we learned like a circular Cuban style, and then a month later we're learning on one. A month later we're learning on two. I'm like, oh my god, how many styles are there?
So
Like,
many.
am I gonna learn something new every month? Well, no, that's not how it went. But we learned super fast. And because we were surrounded by the best dancers in Toronto literally every night, our social dancing, like we were able to evolve our social dancing. So
Okay.
how Angus and I got started is I guess maybe people notice us for the way we freestyle, the way we social dance. And
Mhm.
so people started asking us, can you perform? Can you
Mhm.
do a show? We're like, okay, like we both perform, we both competed, fine. Okay, so we started performing, but then people say, well, can you teach? And so we're like, okay, we taught before, so let's teach. So, oh my God. Um, yeah,
Keep
so then
talking, it's okay, the video will come up, you keep going.
at some point, we decided that we would just make official partnership instead of just not just Carol Lanigas, but we would have a company and we call it I Freestyle because that is the thing that we love and that is
Mhm.
the thing that people most knew us for is
I
like
love
watching the
it.
social dance. Yeah, and plus we were like Apple people too, right? So like I Freestyle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, this was the earliest video I could find of the 2 of you performing.
Oh wow. When 2000 I mean, was it
10, 2010.
2010?
Yes.
So probably okay. We started iFreestyle in 2005. You know
Yes, but
what
YouTube was not
happened?
really a big thing then.
But you know what happened is that I had all my videos on a hard drive, and it crashed. So
Oh,
everything I think probably from 2008 and before gone, and I never uploaded them because we were like we didn't put anything up, right? So
yeah.
everything's lost. I got nothing.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
sad.
yeah. So that's how we started. And so we decided that we would specialize in salsa on two. And so we were the first company in Toronto to specialize in that, not because we don't like other styles, but if you want to learn how we dance, that's the one that we feel. So that's how it started.
For those that are watching that might not know the difference between on 1 or on 2, can you explain what you meant when you said, "This is how we feel"?
How we feel about on two or how we
Yeah.
feel about, okay. So when you're, so on one, on two, if you don't have music on it, it looks the same basically, right? So
Mhm.
when music comes on, the rhythm and the placement of your feet at different timings makes it feel different because the slow of the quick, quick, slow feels different. And
Mhm.
so there's a different character. Now you can do it on one as well. Like I've tried to do it on one. Um, but on two, there's a certain stretch, there's a certain feeling, there's a certain way that we have absorbed it, such that when the music comes on, the majority of time, we're going to want to feel like dancing on two. It doesn't mean you can't dance on one on it because sometimes that happens too. And sometimes
Mhm.
there's music that inspires me to dance on like on eight, right?
Mhm.
Like something like that. Right? So like more like when we're dancing Cuban style. So the music is gonna move us, but we have tended to gravitate toward the feeling of on two. Yeah,
Gotcha. Is that now when you're social dancing, is that your preference to dance on 2?
it is my preference. Yeah,
It is your
yeah.
preference. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever get the guys that, like, are, like, on 1, on 2, and you're just like, "No, no, no," or they don't want to dance on what do you do when you have someone that's like, "No?"
I dance whatever the guy wants to dance,
Fair.
basically. So probably the people that know me here, they're if they're new, they're probably gonna try to dance on two because they want to practice on two. So that's often a reason. But if they give me the choice, I usually say whatever you want because I can dance many styles. And for me, I think the experience feels better when that person can do what they feel comfortable in because I can adapt. So that's kind of the
Agreed.
way that I do it. Yeah.
Same I'm the same way with that.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like, "Whatever you want, just
Yeah.
just keep me on the same time."
Yeah.
That's all
Please.
I ask for.
Please.
Keep me on time, please, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
I do wanna ask because you are a female instructor,
Mhm.
and as a female social dancer and an instructor, how do you deal with when you're social dancing with someone and they're falling off time? Because I know that's a struggle a lot of female instructors have because you don't wanna be teaching when you're social dancing, right?
Yes,
You don't
I
want them to feel like like they're being instructed or, like, told they're wrong.
yeah, for me, I think it depends on who it is. Like
Mhm,
my student or is it somebody else, right? Because sometimes if it's my students, I know they're doing it because they want my help,
mhm,
right? So if it's my but if it's somebody else, I would say that I try to assess, is this worth it to have a conversation? Is it, do they want to know? Maybe they like dancing like this, or maybe it doesn't matter. I'm gonna say most of the time I don't say a word.
Yeah.
Because if they're insisting, so sometimes I'll try to help with the rhythm to stay on time, but if they try to ignore that or overpower it, I'm out. I'm done with like trying. I'll shut up the music in my head and I'll just
Yeah.
follow.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good advice. That's good
Yeah.
advice for sure. Because I
Yeah.
feel like I've been seeing a lot more lately when I go out social dancing, is there's a lot of teaching happening during the
Yeah.
dancing,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I got mixed feelings about this."
You find that it goes both, like it's leaders and followers, or do you find
I've
it's
I've been seeing it a lot from both ends, and
yeah,
I'm just kinda like, "It's not really the place to be giving a lesson,
yeah,
like, in the middle of a dance. Just enjoy the dance." Just
yeah. And it's hard to because I'm sure that you've had this too, where a new person might say, "Teach me something."
Oh, yeah.
Right? That I find that one is the more uncomfortable one because they don't understand like the community or the way it works. It's like, so I've already taught the class. Let's say you're at a club and you're like, so
Mhm.
man, it's just fun time. So, we can do basics, do whatever you want, but
Mhm.
this isn't really the time. That one's always like a little,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's for me, I mean, I don't know how many of the other female dancers out here experience this, but especially if you're single, that comes up as a pickup line all the time. "Oh, you're a dancer? Can you teach me?" "Really? Really? That's your pickup line? Can you teach me?" "No."
Yeah.
"Take a class.
Yeah.
Here's my schedule. Take a
Yeah.
class. Here's my card.
Yeah.
You can sign up for my classes online." Um,
Yeah.
so you've also, besides dancing with Angus, I
Mm.
do have a video of one partnership that you did, although it was like a guest appearance, if you will.
Yeah.
I know this guy. Um,
Yeah.
Talk to me about working on this routine.
Oh, this was so interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna say this. So in Toronto, I mean, I would like to say that we have a pretty good, like more traditional bachata scene. There's also the other styles, modern and sensual. But I think I got my interest from Darlin. So we've
Okay.
known each other. Honestly, I've known Darlin since the beginning of my salsa career because we would go. He was in a different on a different team back then, and
Mhm.
so I think he was coming to Toronto, and I guess he was coming alone, and so they wanted him to do a show, and I think the way I found out, I don't know even if Darla knows this. So I'm sitting at a social. I think we're doing a competition. I'm judging, and somebody says that, oh, Darlin's coming and he's performing with Caryl, and I was like, really?
You gotta love those surprise moments.
But you know what? I mean, we didn't have the conversation yet, but of course we did shortly after. And I was more than excited to do it because I love his flavor. I love his like, what I have learned from him in traditional bachata. I've often said he was my mentor and he shared a lot with me. And
Mhm.
so basically, this. Did you
Of
do this?
course, of
You
course.
know
This
this?
was
Yeah,
this was actually my first
yeah,
AIM Pro routine that I performed. This was Loco de Amor, which was AIM's
yeah.
first bachata routine ever,
Uh,
and it was I don't think people had really seen bachata like this at
yeah.
events before this piece, so it was like a very iconic AIM routine.
Yeah, I loved, and there's a salsa before this, but we didn't do the
Yes,
salsa.
yes, it starts with the salsa and then it segues into the bachata.
Yeah, this actually kicked off a big explosion of traditional bachata in Toronto, this routine. And I
Yeah.
can see like a lot of my students in that time said, "Oh, I saw that routine with you and Darlin. I'm loving this flavor of bachata. I want to learn this." And so I think I had a video. Were you the person in the video? Because I think he sent videos like for me to practice because obviously we don't
It
sit in the same city. It might
it
have been you.
might be. I've lost track of how
Oh,
many
it might
videos
have
I've
been.
made with that man.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember. Anyways, so I think we had like he came to Toronto, and so we had to practice before it. Maybe we had
Mhm.
like a couple hours, whatever. And I had learned it with somebody else so that I can practice it. And so when it's time, yeah, that's what happened.
Nice.
Yeah,
So this is you're segueing into bachata, right? This is
yep,
I freestyle
yep,
doing a team bachata piece.
yep, yep. So that weekend, it was funny because we did two bachata routines that weekend, and
Mhm.
I think during this time, everyone thought I was a bachatera only, right? So because they had seen us perform twice bachata, I'm in the salsa room. I spent a lot of time in the salsa room, and they were like, "Oh, would you like to try salsa?" it was funny because I get it. I understand why, because you haven't seen me dance salsa. You think I just dance much, not just dance, but that's
Mhm.
all that I know. Um, yeah, so that's what I remember from that experience. It was great. I
I
love this
love it.
routine, by the way. So this is also a Darlin inspired too, right? He did a lot of work on this one. Yeah.
Nice. For the company, costumes, right? I always love talking to my female guests about the costumes. Who designs them for the team? Who makes them? How do you come up with it? Like, give us a little bit about that process.
Okay, so we had one of the dancers on our amateur team. She, I don't know how this happened, but she started making costumes. And the thing that I liked about her is that I just told her what I needed to do. I didn't I had no input on like what it ultimately would look like. I just said, this is a bachata routine. There's going to be hips. I want it to be sexy. I want it to be X, Y, and Z, and that's it. And she made stuff for us. Just that. I love that because I'm
I
not.
love that. That's fantastic. And I really love the fact that you just said X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
because we don't hear that often in the States, but I love it. It's great.
Whoa, you guys don't say that?
We say X, Y, and Z.
Oh, right, the Z, Z, right, 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 right.
That's what we say over
Yeah,
here in the States, but I love it.
yeah,
I really love the fact that you were able to do that because I feel like not a lot of people like understand that there needs to be different costumes or different style of costume for different styles of routines or different types. Like you can wear something for a salsa on two piece that you can't wear for like a bachata with lifts. Like, you know what I mean?
absolutely, absolutely. It's got to be functional. It's got to work for you. It's got to accentuate the movements and can't be distracting because I've also seen that where I'm like, oh wow, this is a beautiful routine, but I can't see the movements or I
Mhm.
can't. It's hidden, and so
Yep.
I think I've been lucky. We've had some really nice costumes and some designers who understood that even the logistics of getting in and out, like the stuff that they think about. I'm like, whatever. This is what I needed to do. I trust you.
Did you ever get any complaints from any of the girls on the team like, "I'm not comfortable wearing this," or were you
Yes.
very conscious of that in the beginning?
Oh yes, for sure. For sure. Now, I used to be a cheerleader, so I'm very I like uniformity
Mhm.
because I think that when you're doing team things, there's a certain it impacts the overall presentation,
Absolutely.
right? The
Absolutely.
uniformity of things. And so some people would say I'm not comfortable with it. Now let me try to think to see if I made any adjustments. I think in some cases I did, but in um yeah, but I think it would depend on what their reason is.
Okay, fair
Because
enough.
I think that my taste isn't um too much. Do you know what I mean? Like too
Yeah,
like
it's
overly.
not raunchy. You're not
Not
overly
raunchy.
there's something very classy about your look.
Yeah, that's so what so if somebody says that it
Very
looks.
classy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's me, right? And so I'm not gonna wear. By the way, that other costume, that first costume you saw in red with Angus,
Mm,
Angus designed that one.
did he?
That was Angus.
And
You
and
told
and
me
that was the
why.
most revealing one that I've seen, so way
Yeah,
to go, Angus.
yeah. So if it looks a little different, that's probably Angus. But for us,
Gotcha.
um, yeah, I don't think many of our routines are distasteful. Let's put it that way. And so I don't get a lot of comments, but if I do, I'm like, I gotta find out why. What about it?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
This was a fantastic routine that I actually have 2 videos of. This was you guys doing it in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Was this a competition, I believe? Did
This was a,
you guys use this routine strictly for competition, right? Like, it was a competition piece?
it was a competition piece, yeah. And so this was a competition
Mhm.
performance. Yeah, I love this one too. I got good memories of this, and you know how it is like when you have competition routines, like it changes. So whenever I watch them, like, oh, that's like version 25. That's like version 60. Like honestly, the changes, but the
Mhm.
vibe here was so good. Obviously, we were in our own city. It felt great. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to show it because the
Yeah.
energy was just so great. I will say, funny story,
Okay.
I remember we were in New York,
Uh-huh.
and we were competing in a bachata there's a team bachata
Yeah.
competition,
Mhm.
and it was art in motion. It was, Farrah and Fausto had a team at the time.
Hmm.
It was you guys, right?
Was.
And I don't remember if you guys were using this routine or something else, but I remember we were backstage and AIM, we've always been notorious for doing last minute shit. So like our routine, it was brand new. We had no formation changes yet. It was like you said, you've got like version 20, like it was version one,
Yeah.
right? Of the routine. And we were already nervous, and then you guys came out to do yours, and the music started, and I remember Darlin looked at us and was like, "Guys, I'm really sorry," and we're like, "Why?" He's like, "I choreographed that, and they've been doing it for a year." And we were just like, "Oh, man, there's no way
It's a
we're
good
gonna win."
routine.
Like
It's a good routine. It was actually he had choreographed that for a couple,
yes.
and that couple we turned that into like a team routine.
Oh, I love
And so
that.
that happened. That's why I got lots of love for Darlin and like that like the flavor and like capturing it. And so yeah, it probably felt interesting to him. Like
Like, we were like, "Oh my god, we're gonna get beaten
yeah,
by our" he's like, "I'm gonna get beaten by my own choreography done by another routine, another
well,
team," and
that's
I
just
was like,
it was good.
"God darn it, darling." We were so mad. We're like, "You got us going out here in a version 1 with no formation changes." Meanwhile, you guys were super clean. Partner changes, formation, the whole and we were just like,
You know what? That's cheerleading. That's my
"That is
cheerleading.
cheerleading.
Yeah.
That
So
is cheerleading."
yeah.
Did you find that cheerleading also helped with all of these tricks that you guys were doing?
Absolutely.
And then how did you help your team with that stuff?
Well, okay, that particular team, I have to say, that team was like a blessing because
Mhm.
every single person, okay, the other than me and the guy in the middle, Elton, the other
Mhm.
two are actually couples or married. Okay.
Yes, that's
And
true.
so this team, every single person is a competitor. So I remember we were working on things and they would go on vacation and they would practice and send videos back because nobody wanted to be the one that didn't practice. Like that's how dedicated this team was, like gold in my
Mhm.
eyes, because everyone was fit, everybody was dedicated, everybody was focused, everybody wanted to contribute. And the only thing is that everybody has different experiences with tricks. And
Mhm.
so because Elton and I made our tricks, it always worked for us, right? So, but for everybody else, we had to do adaptations to make it work for them. Different arm lengths, different heights, different weights, different everything. So, what I had to learn through this, because now I'm competing alongside them, I had
Mhm.
to like really try to help them adapt to make it work and still try to give the same look. So I'm sure you've had that experience too. You got to adapt.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was you guys doing this routine at Bachata Masters in Madrid,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is an amazing experience. We've been there also. Talk about that because that's like a whole other thing going to the Bachata Masters. It's unlike anything else here in the States
It is
or in
okay.
Canada.
This is my favorite competition I've ever done in dance, in this kind of dance. The reason is because we had to win North America to go here.
Yep.
So one of the prizes was trip to here to compete against the champions of their own regions. So as a competitor, to me, this was like, yeah, champions of champions. Let's
Mhm.
go, right? So this is Spain. So if anybody dances bachata, this is the home of sensual bachata,
Yep.
right? Right? So this is like I'm blown away at the amount of like sensual bachata that's happening, and here we are, like from North America, and we went with Caribbean Soul.
Yep.
Yeah, so they come second, we had come first, and we're both representing. And I'll tell you the outcome of that after. And so we're like the traditional bachata people. The rest of the people are sensual, and I'm like, you know what? We're missing some components here. We're missing some components.
Mm.
But at the time, we didn't have time. Like we didn't have time to prepare in the way that we normally prepare. So we
Of course.
came with edition 70, but not with other elements.
Okay.
Well, this competition was awesome because I like the idea of champions of champions. Like you had to work to get there. You couldn't
Yep.
just show up and compete. Not that that's not a good thing, but it was a next level,
Oh, for sure.
right?
For
Yeah,
sure. When they
yeah,
announce, like,
yeah,
each couple representing their country, like, it's a moment. You walk out there and you're like,
yeah.
"Oh my god, I'm representing my country?" Like, it's
Yeah.
a whole other experience.
Yeah.
And that stage is
100%.
beautiful. It's
It
huge.
is. It
Huge
is.
venue.
It was a huge venue, like great seating. I think that just the concept. I wish from a competition perspective, there would be more like that, where from your region you've won this. So now when you get to this level, it's like the final four or like the final
It's
whatever.
Listen, if there's an event like that, it's
Yeah.
called the Olympics. They just don't have Latin dance in
We
there.
need that.
We need that.
We
You
need that.
got the things
Yeah.
that they've been adding, and it's like, why can't we have like, dance is a sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that not a part of the Olympics
Yeah.
still?
That would be amazing.
It would be. By the time they do that, though, we'll be too old to participate. We'll
That's
have to
true.
be judges.
We'll be judges.
We'll be judges.
Fine.
That's fine. That's fine. So, now moving back to your company.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit about you guys's and I freestyle.
Oh, this is a pro-am. This is a pro-am. So we were in Pittsburgh, I think, here.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, and I love. Okay, so this is interesting. This particular crew of people, I have good memories of them because there's been times where I said, "Okay, guys, we have to perform in X weeks, and are you up for rehearsing every night or like whatever it was, right?" And this group of people, I asked them specifically because I know they would be up for that, that
Mhm.
they would be okay. Because I don't everybody has their own style of choreography, but I like to prepare my choreography and then show up and teach it. That's my style. Okay.
Yeah.
So this couldn't happen because we had like weeks, like a couple, 2, 3 weeks, I don't know. So I'm choreographing on the fly with Joey. He's another instructor there.
Mhm.
And no one could have endured this except for these guys. And I'm like,
Wow.
thank you, thank you.
You always gotta have that core group
Yeah,
of dancers that
yeah,
are, like, just ready to go at any
yeah.
time,
And
and
they're
in
not
this
even
business.
pros. Like they're amateurs. The other two are amateurs. That's what impresses me the most is like the work ethic. And here's something that I love.
Mhm.
When I ask if you're interested in a project, my favorite answer is yes. Right? Of course. But not, well, how are we going to do it? I want to know that you're passionate about it first,
Mhm.
and then let's figure out how we're going to do it. That's what I like.
Are you down is the
Are you
question.
are you
Are you
down?
down?
Does this
Y
excite you?
Yeah,
That's
for
important.
sure.
Yeah.
That's a great way to approach it. I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really is important to have members on your team that are just down for whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
because 'cause they're the members that will, like, push you to be better for them.
Oh, absolutely. Because now they've agreed to do it, and so now, okay, it's on. Now I got to do my job.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me to my next question, right? Because the first thing you said when I showed this video was this was a pro-am, right? So we
Yeah.
just went from looking at a video of your competition team,
Yeah.
you know, sharp, perfect in Spain, and then a pro-am team, right? And I don't think a lot of people understand the difference, right? In terms of for you as a director, right? When you're
Oh,
dancing on the
yeah.
stage with a team of professionals versus a pro-am team, it's a whole different experience
Different.
for you.
It's different.
Talk
Oh yeah.
about that a little bit?
Well, okay, if you ever worked with me, you'll know I'm pretty strict. Like if you want competition Carol, that's different than performance class Carol.
Oh, for
Okay?
sure.
Well, because we have a
For
different
sure.
goal, right? Now when it's pro am Carol, it's kind of in between. You've
Okay.
taken on a challenge. So it's another pro am. Yeah. So you've taken on a challenge and I'm gonna push you further, but I'm also going to make it so that we can be successful together. And that's
Yes.
important, right? So I'm not just going to take what I'm doing and put you in there and expect to have the same results, right? So it's like as a choreographer, you got to think about that. Well, I have to think about that. Okay, so it's not going to be the same as this, but I'm going to get the best I can out of them by my own energy. So I got to set an example that
Mhm.
I'm going to do my best, and then I don't mess around in rehearsals. And so you can join this and look great together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you ever have the problem where I call it director mode when you're on stage, where, like, you wanna be looking at what the other people are doing because but then you have to like, "No, I'm performing, like, this isn't rehearsal." Do you ever get that problem? Or when you're
Actually,
on stage, you're just on stage and that's it?
okay, I'm gonna say I have been lucky. Like this particular guy, Mons, shout out to Armando. He was a very reliable leader,
Okay.
which allowed me to not worry about everybody else. Like in this group, like Elton and Mo, they're pros, and so I don't have to worry about them. Like, and he's reliable, so I'm like, all right, let's go. I don't have to think about it because he doesn't make me have to think about other things. Now, there's been other situations where I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I gotta like keep this going. I gotta make sure if there's misconnections, I'm gonna keep on going, and
Mhm.
hopefully everybody else is doing their thing.
You ever talk on stage?
uh, no, actually, I don't talk on stage.
You don't talk on stage?
No, but you know what?
I've had people that have, like, full conversations, like, I think Jalissa was like, "We gonna get some pizza afterwards," it's like, she's having, like, full and then you have directors that are like, "Move it!" Like, talking through your teeth with that smile where you're like,
Yeah.
"Get over to the left right now," and you're like you're clenching, trying to get it out.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think that because I'm so strict, I
Mhm.
guess, in rehearsals that they probably wouldn't try because they'll hear it somewhere else. Yeah,
I love it. Oh, that's so funny.
yeah.
That is so funny. When you were doing the choreography,
Mm,
like, I know you said you touched on this a little bit,
mm,
but when you're choreographing for proams or for students or whatever,
mm.
do you go through the process of like, no, I got to tone it down? Or do you just let your mind go and then you'll figure out from there, like as you're in the rehearsal process, what needs to be simplified or whatnot?
Oh, yeah, you know what? Okay, one thing that's way easier is if you're actually performing in it, because then you can feel what doesn't feel good and what feels good. So, um, when it comes to choreography, I think the music is for me is a thing that I want to inspire the movements or the flow. But sometimes I want to dance a certain way, and then I
Hmm.
find a song that's gonna match it. So it kind of can go either way, right? Like I'm sure that's happened to you both ways,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
But
And
I mean, in terms of the difficulty of the
oh, the
choreography.
difficulty. Okay, so this I think okay, I
Like,
think
are
I'm
you
pretty
just do
good
you
at.
just go and then you're like, "Okay, I gotta tone it down," or do you have the difficulty of or the level of
Yeah,
dancers
I think
in
I
your
have a good.
mind when you're doing it?
I think I have a good idea. This is something that I think I'm good at actually.
Okay,
Is that I'm pretty good at knowing difficulty level of my teams.
okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that it's always right, but I think I know what the upper limit is, whether it's a spin, a trick, or something like this. So I'm gonna be like, I can picture everybody, and I can picture flexibility, I can picture strength, I can picture combinations. I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work. So I'm gonna choose something that the majority of people can do. Sometimes we try something and then we have to bring it down a
Mhm.
little bit. And
Yep,
sometimes I'm like, oh, that was great. Let's add this to it. But I'm pretty good at knowing like the starting point. It's never like, oh my god, it's so easy, or oh my god, it's impossible. Yeah,
gotcha.
I think that's cheerleading. Honestly, it's like just knowing the feeling of like, okay, it makes sense that you guys do this trick. It makes sense that you guys do this trick. We can't do this one. Yeah,
I love it. You would talk about cheerleading a lot, and yet
yeah.
it wasn't brought up when we were talking about your background. I feel like I feel like there's an inner cheerleader still wanting to get out, Carol, because you keep talking about it.
Oh, you know what? Because I think that I learned so much. I cheerleaded for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I cheerleaded for 9 years. And so a lot of my want or need to be precise comes from cheerleading because, if your hand is like this or like this or like this, I can see it.
Mhm,
So precision, I learned it and I can't help it. Plus, also you have formations. So I learned so much from 9 years of cheerleading. Like so, as the cheerleader, learning as the
mhm,
coach, as the choreographer, also how partners work together in tricks, and the order of things. And so I use that a lot when I do tricks and like where's the energy coming from? Because if you've never done it before, you might think the energy comes from like follow the guy, follow the leader in
mhm.
this in certain things, where in reality you follow the follower. wherever her energy is, if she once she's sunk down and she prepares, you can't interrupt that. You have
Yep.
to go with her energy. And some people will be like, oh, well, you're doing it wrong. Well, actually, you got to go with her energy because she's already started. She's already
I
started.
really hope guys are watching this
Yeah.
interview right now because you
Yeah.
bottoms, you really need to learn this stuff and pay attention. This is great information.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Because there's leaders who are like, oh, no, you have to do it like this. I'm not, well, I'm the one going up. So let's coordinate. And once I'm up, you got to go with it.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of practice and a lot of technique
Yeah.
that goes into tricks, and I don't think people really understand how important that is, right? Because there are some people that can do tricks because the lead is able to muscle the follow through, right? Like there are
Yeah.
some guys that are just super strong and can toss anybody up in the air
Yeah.
and it's just strength.
Yeah.
But one of the hardest things I think about tricks is being consistent with them.
Mhm.
And I think that only happens when technique is involved.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely. For consistency, for safety, for like the best
mhm,
energy, like to synchronize. Like there was a one trick that we did in the at the competition in Spain, and I
mhm.
get tossed in the air. And there's one, two, there's four of us that have to coordinate our energy. And when it's good, like they follow me. Like obviously I know I'm listening to the music and I'm paying attention to them. But when I'm syncing, all of us gotta go. And that took a lot of practice,
Mhm,
right? And is the left side more? Is the right side more? Is the back more? Is the like it's a lot. And
mhm.
it's technique. It's technique and practicing with consistency and intention, and also control of your body, of course. Yeah.
Of course, of course. A lot of, tricks, which I don't think people know about unless they do them, is
Mm,
for the girls, it's all about the core, the lats, right? Those
exactly.
are, like, the key things that we think of. For the guys, it's all about their second position pliés, right? That
Yeah.
squat is everything,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
that right there is your core of all tricks. You know, the guy being able to press using his legs, not his back, and the girl being able to hold herself.
But like exactly like you said, like what are you using? Like what parts of your body are you using to generate the energy and to
Mhm.
generate the stability? That's another thing you get from cheerleading is stability because
Oh,
you have
for
to hold,
sure.
hold positions and you're like a rock, right? Like just hold it while other stuff is going on. And so once I think the concept is there and it's like a way of thinking,
Mhm.
then you start to apply it, but you have to learn it, not throw yourself into it. That
Absolutely.
leads to injuries and all this kind of stuff.
Absolute
Yeah.
oh, such good
Yeah.
words.
Mm.
This routine, 2018, I believe, or this
Yeah.
was one of the most recent videos I could
Oh,
find of the
wow.
guys
Oh my
freestyle
god.
group performance.
Wow, okay, so so again, the same ProAm team. This is might have been one of the ones we did in, like, weeks.
Mhm.
This is at a club in, Toronto, so there was a bachata night there. These guys are just always up for it. They're always
I
up
love
for,
it.
like, performing and the challenge, and the thing is, they how can I say this? They roll with it. They really roll with the process, especially when we're in those crunch times where you got to make up something real quick, which
Mhm.
doesn't usually happen for us because we usually allocate time, like we're planners. If we're going to compete here, we want this. But we did compete once with only 1 month of practice. Um,
Girl, that's been my life most of my
yeah,
competition.
yeah. And so we like to feel prepared, and that was a challenging one for us. But it's part of the journey. Like
Absolutely, it's part of the
yeah,
journey.
yeah.
So, we're gonna continue on your dance journey
Okay.
and about another partnership that you had over the years.
Yeah.
How did you and Jose end up working together?
Okay, this was so interesting. So we're in Spain. Okay, we're in Spain, and we meet. And on this Spain trip, we're going to France, and then we're going to go to Switzerland, where we're going to kind of compete and perform in Switzerland. And we find out that he is going to Switzerland also. And so we're like, I don't know if he had arrangements yet, but we kind of hooked him up with some of our guys on the team. So that's how we started meeting. But what I realized, or like what we learned from each other, is that we danced the same amount of years. We're both directors. Jose's from Atlanta,
Mhm.
and we had quite a lot in common. So we became friends. Now he is more of a set. I mean, I think he does more traditional bachata now, but back then he was more of a sensual bachata dancer. And I'm
Mhm.
coming from like a traditional sense. So we said, you know what? Let's train together and let's make up a routine that combines both. Oh my God, this was like super eye opening, super eye opening on many levels. One, it was another long distance, like it was a long distance partnership,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
Atlanta and Toronto, that's pretty far from each other.
Yeah, but we made it work. Like we would visit each other's cities, or like if we were at the same place, and we would train together there, just like I guess how everyone else does it. Um, but this experience taught me about communication and what leads and follow me. Okay, so one of the things that I've learned is really understanding your starting point. So, i.e., my starting point is different from his starting point. So, when words are exchanged, I interpret it from my experience, he interprets it from his experience. So, for instance, so he's leading me through something and he goes like this. So, he has my hand like this and he goes like that. And so I step because in traditional bachata, when you move your arm forward and you take a step, that means I'm going to step or I'm going to do something with my hip. You're trying to initiate something in my lower body, step or hips or something.
Yep.
In more sensual movements, he wanted me to move my upper body. I'm like, I don't understand what you want me to do because you push me, I'm gonna go back. That's what you did. Isn't that what you want? Right? Like, so
Mhm.
I'm like confused. I'm like, why am I not getting it? Right?
Mhm.
So what we learned is like, okay, we have to translate what we mean because our starting point is very different. Um, and we have to learn to create a language or a way of communicating that works for both of us. So when I say this, it means this, or when you do this, that means this to me, it doesn't mean that. And then to do that in a traditional, like in the context of a traditional section, in the context of a more sensual section, oh shoot, like we learned so much from this. So much.
I'm showing this clip because this was actually a workshop you guys taught in Atlanta that was called Traditional versus Sensual Bachata,
Yeah.
which
It
I
was
think is really great because I feel like as bachata has grown,
mhm,
there's become a misconception almost of what bachata really is, right? Because there's been so much fusion and sensual has become so big
mhm.
and so popular that I feel like people get surprised when they see traditional now. And I'm like, but that's bachata.
Right? So the traditional bachata dancers would say, and it on this line. Um, so part of this, as a more of a traditional style,
Mhm.
part of this workshop was music, and so I know that when we dance and when we teach, we talk about music a lot because
Oh
it's
yeah.
the rhythms, it's all this kind of stuff. So I talk about the rhythms, and nobody there knew what I was talking about. They didn't know what the instruments were. They had never been taught it at this time. But they started listening and they're like, oh my God, I hear the bongos, I hear the guitars. And to me, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I love it because their ears are opening to something that they haven't seen before.
Yep.
And that I guess it's really just about the education of it, and expanding it. And now you can hear your modern bachata music in a different way too. It's not exactly the same, but it can be.
Mhm.
But it's just know about the music, which I think we don't do enough of, especially in salsa,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Especially in salsa, like
I think that's just a
yeah,
big problem though today in
yeah,
general with a lot of
yeah.
dances. People don't wanna learn the history. They just
Mm.
wanna like, "Oh, I saw that in a video and it was really cool and I wanna do that."
Yeah, but not
And
getting
that's
the essence of it.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And in order to appreciate it, you
yeah,
really wanna, get the full thing. So, like,
yeah,
now here you guys are with a more traditional,
yeah,
same workshop, still bachata.
yeah. So you can kind of like our goal here was to expose them because we're in the South, right? So there's
Mhm,
not really traditional bachata happening down there. So we wanted to expose them to bachata as we know it, right? And maybe the roots, we can say like the more roots of bachata, so that they can see, oh, okay, well, here's the music from like 1970 or whatever, like it's old music, right?
oh,
But
yeah, for sure.
here's the music that drove this flavor or this kind of stepping, and see how we kind of focus on lower body. Here's one way, here's something you can add to your
Mhm,
sensual bachata. It doesn't, you can add because it's Zook, right? It's pretty much Zook. So you can add
yep,
this, but if there's moments where you hear guitars, if you hear like rhythm changes, play.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
okay, I'm sure you felt this before. Like, so when you're dancing maybe with a sensual bachata dancer and you kind of
Mhm.
do a little bit of footwork or rhythm changes, and they're like,
Yeah,
right? They're kind of, oh wow, that's so cool, right?
yeah.
And it's so normal to us. But I'm like, I like that. I like that appreciation of it. Yeah.
I'm personally for me, I've come to
Mm,
really believe that bachata is bachata, right?
mm,
At the end of the day, I don't think it should be I mean, I know there is a separation, but
mm.
I personally feel that like a bachata dance can easily be an amalgamation of 2, and you can pretty much dance either to any song, right? Because I could listen to a Romeo Santos song and find a section with the guitar where I could do footwork like
Right?
this, right? Or you can listen to a Luis Vargas song and find a part in the song where he's singing and you can move your body to it, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be all this or all that. I actually don't I prefer not it to be all or one or the other. I like the blend.
Yeah, and in this case, I think let the music, for me, let the
Yes.
music inspire that because
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because
yeah,
it all comes from the music,
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
you know? So,
Totally.
we saw you teaching with Jose,
Mhm.
and now we're gonna look at you performing with Jose.
Yeah, this was a very like a lot of challenging moments for me. Is my first sensual section, I guess, ever. I had to learn a lot. He had to show me like a different way to connect because the
Mhm.
connections aren't exactly the same, but beautiful. And actually, this inspired me to learn Zook because I'm like, if I'm
Okay.
gonna learn sensual, I'm gonna go to the roots. I'm gonna go to the roots. And I actually really like Zook. I actually really like it. The connection is so deep.
Mhm.
Um, and I honestly I apply it to salsa, bachata, cha-cha. I apply it to everything. Like I mean, I'm you mix everything up, right? Like you apply whatever it is you learn from and you put it in your dance, and
Yep,
it makes it a more interesting experience for you and your partner.
for sure. I'm just switching it to a better video because the
Oh,
other one
okay.
was so dark, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I can't really
Oh,
see it all." And
yes.
this was all at that event. This was the only routine you guys had choreographed together, right?
That's right. That's right.
Now,
Yeah. Hmm?
did you stop working together just because it was difficult location-wise, or you guys just got busy?
It might have. When was this? What year is this? Uh,
This was, I'll tell you, 2017.
2017.
Mhm.
I feel like it might have been distance, but I think in 2018 I had a shoulder injury.
Oh,
Yeah, so I had a shoulder injury, so then I didn't do anything that had a lot of tricks in it. so,
gotcha.
and I mean that's like a big part of I mean what we would have done because we both enjoy that, right? So
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that like we're still friends today. We still check in whenever we can. We support each other, but I'm pretty sure it was probably that my
Well,
injury.
Jose, if you watch this interview, I'd like to see the 2 of you do a piece together again, so I'm just gonna put that out there.
All right.
Just throw that out there, maybe you 2 give each other a call and make it happen because it really is a nice partnership. You guys complemented each other very well.
Thank you.
And you were talking a lot about Zook and how much you really love it, and I found a video of you
Ah,
doing a
there
Zook
you go.
workshop.
Okay, yeah. So again, so this night at Posh in Toronto,
Mhm.
I was a teacher of this night for a certain period of time, and I'm teaching traditional bachata, sometimes modern bachata, whatever. But so this guy, Peter, the weekend before was the Zoo Congress in Toronto, and so
Mhm.
I said, hey. Do you want to teach with me at Posh and let's do a more sensual like Zouk inspired because actually a Zouk dancer. So like
Nice.
the feeling, the intention, the essence of it feels different. Feels different. And so yeah, so I was really glad that we got to showcase this other style and that he was a Zouk dancer. And he dances bachata, but he's more Zouk. Yeah, so it was
Nice.
a great experience for me. I learned a lot. Learned a lot.
I love it, and I think it's important, like you were saying, for people to understand that if you are doing sensual bachata, that sensual stuff is coming from Zouk, so
Yeah,
give the credit to where it is and study it properly.
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think that's a big problem. I think a lot of people are just watching videos and being like, "Oh, I'm just," and people get hurt because 'cause you're doing crazy head whips or making a good girl twerk her body in a way that maybe doesn't feel comfortable and
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of Zook is because it's really a conversation in the sense that the energy that I'm giving or like where I just came from, he's gonna
mhm,
take that. It's not just he's doing whatever he wants, he's taking my energy and making that into something which feels more organic.
mhm,
And so I think that's the beauty of this. And I feel the same like in traditional bachata, there's a certain energy like that too. That
mhm.
like it's so like you would close your eyes and you're oh, it's so good. It's like that energy because it's coming from both sides. Um, and I guess that's what I love about partner dances is that feeling of
It
connecting and like having that conversation and um not when someone's dancing at you, you know what I mean? When someone's like, here's my turn patterns for the day, and I'm gonna do my turn patterns on you, but they don't care how it feels to you. Like not so
I could watch this demo of you guys all day. It's like a performance. It's so good. It's
it's
so good.
and it's so music like you can't hear the music, but like I'm
I know.
sure
Well, I 'cause I need to hear you, and
yeah.
I
No,
don't
it's
want
okay. No, no,
YouTube to
no.
come after me with music copyright stuff, so
No, not at all. It's just the thing that they do. This is the other thing that I like about it. It's a full body dance. Like they're gonna
mhm.
go to the floor, they're gonna come up, they're gonna use your head tilts, you're gonna do things like this, um, like off axis rotations, things like this, right? So it just challenges you. And so like when you can add hip hop into your dance, when you can add zouk, West Coast swing, when you can add flamenco, when you can kind of add these extra things, it just makes it more interesting. So your body is now it has more repertoire to play with,
Mhm.
right? I
Agreed,
like that.
agreed.
Yeah.
More crayons in the box to
More
draw with.
crayons. Yeah.
More crayons. I love the crayons. So, you've been teaching now for quite some time.
Mhm.
What do you love to teach the most? Is it adult classes? Is it kids? Is it salsa? Is it bachata? Do you have a style that you prefer to teach?
Oh wow, this is 2014. You know what? I have never taught kids, so I don't know what that experience is like actually.
Oh,
But
it's
so
interesting.
I'm
No.
sure.
No, I
I'm
love
sure
working with kids. It's
it's
great. It's just a whole different experience for sure.
I give you credit for that because I'm sure that takes a lot of patience, right?
Yes, I've had moms actually tell me, that I don't drink enough. Like, they'll come and pick up their kids, and they'll see the craziness from some of these children, and they're like, "Do you drink?" And I'll be like, "Sometimes. You should drink more." Like, "Oh god."
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and so I have a lot of respect for people who do that because it's not easy, but it's probably so rewarding too, right? Like,
Yes,
yeah,
very. They're all about the
start
hugs
them
and
young.
the
Start
yeah, you
them
get them
young.
young, you get to shape their lives, and it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, but working with adults is also, it's a whole different
Um,
experience, but so fun.
okay, I'm gonna tell you what I love about what I like to teach. Okay,
Okay.
so it's not actually the genre; it's the way of thinking about dancing.
Ooh.
This is the thing that I try to impress upon or sneak it in,
Mhm.
because to me this changes everything. So I'm gonna give you a story. I went to a Puerto Rico Congress,
Okay.
and there was this guy, um, and he was so smooth. And I'm like, why is he so smooth? Like, why is this so easy to follow? And so we had an opportunity to talk. His name is Evie, actually, from
Oh,
you
Spain,
know
Sweden.
Sweden. Yeah.
Sweden, yeah, he was in Philly
So
for a little bit.
we had a conversation. I said, why is it so smooth? Like I'm analyzing it as a teacher, right? Like why? And he goes, well, because I'm trying to see what you're doing. Like I'm trying to pay attention to how you're responding to me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, ding, 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 ding. This is the difference. This is the difference. Right. So this guy, his approach to leading changed everything. It was like I understood it, but it was spelled out for me now that when you're leading somebody, it's not like you're throwing something at them. It's like, what do you want for them to do? What is your intention with them? What do you need to pay attention to make it happen? Okay,
Mhm.
so I have to understand where they're going. What's their timing? What feels natural? How does this is it important for me to get out of the way? Is it important for me to angle? Is this going to be more comfortable? So and what is she giving back to me that I can use to help me make this feel good for both of us. And so the thing that I try to say is think about leading try thinking about it from a different perspective. Not this is the turn pattern that I learned and this I turn on two and then I break back on whatever. In real life, it doesn't happen so strict. In real life, there's an ebb and flow and every person has their own stretch. I mean, assuming that you're dancing on time, right? Like dance
Mhm.
on time, but everything else, everybody has their own stretch. And so if you can listen to that and if you can put your attention on your partner as a leader, then you'll probably get more out of her because she
Mhm.
feels good. And that's from the leader perspective, right?
Oh, that's so important.
Right. And then the follower perspective is really like respond. Know
Mhm.
all your stuff, own your time, be in control of your body, like pay attention because it takes years to gain awareness of like where your
Mhm.
arms go, like where your head goes. But then respond with whatever it is that they're giving you and then give them something back because you know what it's cool, right? When you're dancing with somebody and
Mhm.
you do something and they play off of that, you're like, what? This guy's awesome,
Yep.
right?
I love those dances. Those are the best.
Yeah, it's not a one-way thing. And I think that in dance classes, I find that they're very focused on teaching the turn pattern, but they're not teaching the way to think about it. And so that's my
Mhm.
favorite thing is how to think about it so that you can
I love that.
like teach you how to fish. Don't give you the fish.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
And I really wanted to show this video too because there's um there's I feel like a debate in the industry
Mhm.
about what women can teach,
Uh-huh.
right? I feel like we get pigeonholed that it can only be styling or only footwork or whatever. But no, women can teach partner work classes and you lead like a badass. Right? I had Kat Arias on season 1. She also leads all the time. She doesn't teach a class even as a follow, she only teaches them as leads.
Mhm.
How important do you think it is for female instructors, dancers to be able to do both?
Okay, this is just my opinion, but I think you can't teach if you don't know both. Because you have to be because if you're teaching one-on-one, say a private, who's going to teach what the guy's doing or like what the leader's doing?
Mhm.
So you have to know how to do that. And then
Absolutely.
you have to know the opposite role, whatever you are, because you have to understand what it feels like. And you have to be able to instruct it. So the way that we teach, like of course, like I teach on my own. I've taught on my own. And no problem, whatever, right? Um, that to me, I like to take classes when there is a female and a male, where the female speaks also.
Mhm.
And I'm turned off by classes where they only talk to the leader
Yeah.
and the leader doesn't speak to the follower, or vice versa, where the females only speaking to the females, right?
Mhm.
We're both there to learn. And so I think as a teacher, in a partner dance, you should know both. My opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do find that and I think this is I don't think it's a conscious decision, but I think it's just something that has been happening over the years, so it's just like the standard when you go to congresses. A lot of time when you go to a congress and you have a couple teaching, there's only one microphone.
Yeah. Yeah,
They
that's true.
only
That's
they
true.
only give one microphone to the couple, and 9 times out of 10, that microphone goes on the man, and he's doing the class. And I think that's something that really either needs to change or I don't know what, because I feel like it's really important that we have an opportunity for both partners to be able to talk during a workshop. If, like you say, you have 2 people there.
If you have two if you have two people there that are skilled instructors
Mhm.
that can contribute to the learning experience, then I 1,000% agree there should be two microphones because I mean, why it doesn't make sense. Now, the funny thing is that usually I'm going to get the microphone. So between my partners,
Mhm.
I usually end up with the microphone.
Well, because
Yeah.
you're the face of I Freestyle.
Well, even with Angus. So Angus, who's like a much more experienced leader than me, when
Mhm.
we teach, he usually gives me the microphone.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I think I mean that's a testament to him. You know, when we're I don't think he sees me as not a partner. Like I think that's it's the way he thinks about it, right? Is that I'm
Mhm.
his partner, and so therefore I have the quieter voice. What I'm a cheerleader, so I can actually talk pretty loud, but still he gives that gesture of, you know what, I can speak louder. Don't hurt your voice. You take the microphone, and he doesn't try to overshadow me.
Well, thank you, Angus.
Yeah.
That's very nice
Thank
of
you,
you.
Angus.
You're such a sweet gentleman. And they
Yeah,
say chivalry is dead.
yeah,
No, but
yeah.
I think that's something that's just kind of built into the system.
Mhm.
And I
Agree,
think
totally.
and I think it's something that if Congress organizers are watching this right now, maybe another microphone is expensive, but if you have a couple teaching, maybe provide 2 microphones. Just
It,
the thought, just
it's a
putting it out there.
it's a cultural thing, right? Like it's our community, right?
Mhm.
And so from a dance community perspective, if you've hired two instructors, or if there's two instructors out there, then two instructors have a voice. So it just makes sense. It's more like maybe they didn't think about it. Maybe it's a budget thing, but it's really going to affect the experience because now you have the girl going like this, talking on the guy's microphone, right? Like that
Mhm.
happens all the time, right? Or you're like, okay, here you talk, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about the best experience for your instructors and for your audience or your the students. So what's that going to be? Two microphones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten any pushback or anything because you are a woman and you're the director and the choreographer and all that? Or has it been for you? No problem. Here you go. Because everybody has a different experience. There have been
Everybody
a lot
does.
of women that have had to deal with obstacles and doubt and everything else and pushback from their male counterparts or male promoters. And I've had women on the show who have been like, I've had nothing but support.
Yeah, and I think this is a really interesting question because maybe if you only talk to Toronto people, if you only talk to people in your own city, you don't really know what's going out there. So
Hmm.
hearing stories from other people, listening to your show, like I learned a lot as well. But in Toronto, we are super, super, super diverse in all
Hmm.
ways.
Oh,
And
yes, you guys are. You're a very
right,
diverse city. Very
so
diverse.
you stand alongside everybody. I mean, this is my experience. I can't speak for everybody, but
Hmm.
I feel like everybody just fair game for everybody, right? And so I would even say that there's probably more female directors than male directors, at least at the beginning. Maybe I don't know about now, but I don't really pay attention. That it's so normal. It's so like a non-item, like that.
Hmm.
I remember one time someone said to me like, "Oh well, maybe 10 years ago. Oh, wow, it's so cool that you're a female director. How
Hmm.
does that feel?" I'm like, I don't know how much like I don't know how to answer the question because like
Yeah, like,
it's like and in my head I'm rolling through like, am I the only female instructor? A female director? I'm like dun, 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 like so many, right? So like
mhm,
I feel like this is pretty normal. Um I I think, and this is an interesting topic. Because one, I think the environment that you are in makes a difference.
absolutely.
In a city like Toronto where it's diverse, and when I step into a community where there's a lot of women leading, it's a non-issue. Like I don't think I don't know that I've ever had pushback because
I definitely think it's a Toronto thing because
I
Jen
think
also
it's a
had a
Toronto
very
thing.
positive story.
Yeah, it's like you don't really think about it because it's just what it is. It's just whatever you want to do, it's fair game for everybody. And I think in all of my years of dancing,
Mhm.
I only can remember one time where someone didn't look at me as the director.
Really?
Yeah. I
That's
can only think
amazing.
of one instance, and I'm with my team. I don't know how, like, maybe it's all the way my team also does it too. So we're in a circle, and I think it's with my pro team, and the I don't know, the stage manager comes in and they talk to they look at one of the guys and they say, "Oh, okay, so blah 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 blah," blah," and they go like this.
Yeah.
They go like that, right? And they're like, "Oh, okay," and then but out
Only
once,
once. That's
only
amazing.
once. And I think my team helps that though, right? So if it ever happens, they go, "That's the boss. Go talk to her." So it's not just maybe it's not just me, it's how other people help it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, lady, you command
Yeah.
respect because you've put in the work, right? You are an incredible teacher, an incredible choreographer. There's a reason why your team respects you as much as they do. And I think that carries over into how the rest of the industry sees you.
Well, I hope so. I really like of course I really enjoy this. I enjoy that it's a non-issue. And after hearing so many stories, I'm like, oh wow, like that's really unfortunate that it's not that way.
Mhm.
And I have some ideas of how that can evolve, but it is still sad to
Yeah.
hear.
Well, I definitely wanna talk to you about all that stuff, but that's a whole separate conversation that we can have.
Yeah.
Because this one of the things that I was talking to you about in our prep, was I think we all can learn so much from each other, which is one of the
Wow.
reasons why I started the show. A lot of us experience similar things, and then a lot of us experience different things. But those of us that have experienced the similar don't know about the other ones who experience the similar, right? And we could all be helping each other. And there's something about this business, and it's so frustrating where it seems to pit women against women, right? Like there
Mm,
can only be one female face of a company, or if this is the best female dancer in New York, there can't. And it shouldn't be that way. Like it's not like there's a limited amount of credit to give around to people, right? It's not
yeah,
like
yeah,
if I have a loaf of bread, there's only so many pieces of bread that I can cut up and give out. But respect and praise, right? That's not something that's in a limited quantity. There's no reason why I can't tell you that you're amazing, and I can't tell another dancer in Toronto she's amazing. It doesn't take away from you, right?
well said.
You can both be amazing. We could all be amazing, and we can all support each other, and if we did that, I think we'd all be so much better off if we had this open dialogue with each other.
I agree with you. There isn't a limit. There isn't a bag of compliments or a bag of like recognition that has an end.
Exactly.
I think one of the things that we don't do is we don't notice it. We don't see it.
Yep.
Like for instance, like when we were talking yesterday, like there's so many things that I've seen, whether it's you or it's like whoever, that I can see. I'm like, "Oh, she's great. Like she's like leading this, whatever it is, right?" And
Mhm.
so if I see it, some people aren't paying attention because you might be some people may be overshadowed by other things, but it's really
Mhm.
to see it that can change the way you see the world, the way that, hey, it doesn't, I don't have a limited bag of recognition.
Yeah, right? And I think that's a big part of also what the problem is in this industry in the sense of, like, the men in the partnerships
Mm,
getting the credit,
mm.
but not the women getting the equal credit, right? Or it's like, you can't like, you should be able to give compliment to the female partner and it not take away from the male counterpart. Like, it's not like there's only enough praise for one of you. Like, no,
Yeah,
no, it's 2 people dancing out there. Both should get the praise, or
yeah.
both should get the recognition or whatever, and I just always found it so funny that it's like, I can't like, it's almost as if people think there is a limited supply and there isn't.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about this before too. It's like it's ego as well because it goes both ways. Like I've seen women like try to take all the kudos too.
Yeah, and it's not. It's a
Yeah,
partnership.
yeah, and it's that person though who's in the position to recognize. I think that's what's lacking. Like, so if you're the face of something, and then you have a partner who has like helped you build your empire or like has been side like right beside you through the whole thing, it's
Mhm,
that person's job to recognize so that it teaches other people to recognize. For instance, like Angus and I've been dancing together for 20 years. Okay. And so there are so many things I'm proud of him for. And there's
mhm.
so many things that he's proud of me for. And he'll send me private messages. Oh, wow, that was so good. I'll send him the same. But when we're in a public forum, I'm like the first person to say, I'm proud of that guy. Thank you for all that you've done, or
Mhm.
whatever that is. Um, but whoever is in that, they should be the ones teaching other people how to recognize their partner. I think
Well
that's
said.
missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what's missing.
But ego and
Ego.
limitation, right? Like there's a limit to, you don't want somebody to get more credit or like because it's gonna take away from you. But you know when they say like when you lead, your success. Okay, I forget how this goes, but like, is it how successful you can make other people?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so when you
Yes.
see somebody who's doing so well, it's like, well, you had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Congratulate them on that and like praise them and say, hey, you know what? This whoever worked their butt off. And everybody.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well said. Well said. My last question for you, because I go over with every guest. If this was on regular television and there was commercials, I would be screwed. Time wise, for real. My last question to you before I let you go. If you could give one piece of advice to women who want to make it in this industry,
Mhm.
what would that piece of advice be? I'm going to give you the whole screen for this one, girl.
Okay, I have a couple of thoughts. One thing is to if you're gonna be in the dance scene, you really got to be aware of your environment,
Hmm.
and you also, I would suggest to check in with how you think. So as I mentioned before, how you think about things makes a difference. So because I'm lucky enough to be in Toronto, I don't perceive barriers. I mean, doesn't mean that they're not there. I just don't perceive them, or I don't look at I don't see anything that's blocking me from getting anything that I want. But that mentality helps me continue and helps me just whatever is on my mind, I'm gonna do that. Honestly, I can't picture anybody telling me I can't do something. I can't think of an example of somebody telling me I can't do something. I can't think about it. So I don't know if it's because I don't attract it because I don't pay attention to it, or because of the way that I think. And so my thought is I've learned a lot and I'm evolving a lot too. But this is one thing that has worked for me. So if I'm a woman or a man or whatever you are, and you're trying to excel in anything that you do, think about what you're letting in your mind. Think about what you're not letting in your mind, because sometimes out of emotion, we we don't hear certain truths, or we don't hear other people's perspective because we're emotional about those things. And so one of the things that has helped me is like, I try not to get emotional about things. Like that's just not my personality. And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go until I hit whatever my finish line is. Um, but it's also important to pause and think about how you're feeling about it, because your body gives you signals. If something feels good, then you're probably going to do more without effort. It's not going to feel like work. But if you feel something that doesn't feel good, it's a signal. Pay attention to it. Either the environment's not right, or maybe you're thinking of the way you think about it is not serving you. So that might be a lot of different thoughts, but it's really about how you think about your situation. Is it serving you? Is it going to help you get to your goal, or is it making you angry? Because me, I want peace. Like or are you like sitting in drama? I don't like drama. So I like excitement, but I try to think in a way that serves me. And I've learned that over time too. Like I already had that, and it evolved over the years to a place where now I can see things in a different way, and I can make better choices. And I'm also hearing things like I'm seeking out other people's experiences because I want to learn more.
I love that. That's a great answer.
Yeah,
It's a lot to unpack, but it's a
it's a
really
lot.
great answer, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is really
Mhm,
important.
mhm.
I hope that those of you that are watching really listen to what she had to say, because I think that really is some very valuable advice,
Yeah,
especially in a business where there's so much noise.
there's so much more. And you know what? I think you are doing such a good job of giving people the platform to share these things, because you can't always say this kind of stuff in class, right? You can write a blog, you can do whatever, but when you hear it from the person's mouth, you've given such an open forum for people to say what's on their mind. And I think you're doing awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I'm really, really grateful that you agreed to be on. I know you're busy, especially with everything getting back to somewhat normal there, you know?
Mm.
So, again, I really appreciate you. For those that have been watching, we've had Carol's information streaming at the bottom of the page, the whole show. You can follow her on social media. She's Caryl.Cuizon on Facebook, at Caryl Ifs on IG. And then I don't know if I said that right, but
Well, IFS.
I have a that
Yeah.
that makes sense, way more sense. And then you can follow ifreestyle.ca on social, on at ifreestyledance on Facebook and IG. Thank you so much, my dear, for
Follow
being
Sharonne.
on. And you can follow me on Facebook. I never mentioned myself. I'm always talking about you guys. Yes, you can also follow me on social media at Sharvy on IG, at Sharonne Vinokurov on Facebook, and of course, Women of Dance has its own page on Facebook and Instagram as well. Caryl, thank you, thank you, thank you for being my guest today. You were awesome. I love talking with you. You have so much experience, so much knowledge, and I hope that our viewers got to know a little bit more about your fabulous self today.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to Sharonne for doing this and helping, giving all of us windows into other people's experiences. I have learned a lot also from watching your show. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Well, make sure you join me next week, guys, because we're going to be taking it to the DMV area with Marcia Bonet. So
Eh,
we're going to talk all about the ballroom stuff too. It'll be great. Guys, tune in. That episode will be at a special time next week at 1:30. So join us then. Once again, this has been Women of Dance. I'm your host, Sharonne Vinokurov. Love you all. Have a great day. Take care.